So to see northern lights, what I'd recommend people that are new, wait for there to be a big flare. You want it to be earth directed. Like there could be a really powerful flare, but if it shoots way east, it kind of wrecks the possibility for you seeing it because it's not going to hit our atmosphere. Um, so once you know it's headed towards Earth, it usually takes like 2 to 3 days for it to arrive. Now there are some shows that it kind of catches us off guard. You never know when there might be a display. Um, but once you know it's coming, once you know that the it's powerful enough, get to some place away from city lights. Use like Google Maps and find some place like a public boat launch on the south side of a lake. That's like a great place to go see it because it's gonna be like a good place to go. It's gonna have a clear view. You're gonna be looking north, and then just like wait and you don't really know how much it's gonna happen because they don't happen in like one time it happens and then it's done for the night. It comes in waves too. So like coronal mass ejection is what they call it when the particles are launched into outer space. When the CME hits us, then you see an uptake in a flare in the northern lights. But there might be 3 or 4 of them in any given night.
Welcome to the second episode of Get the Picture podcast. I'm your host, Brad Siegel. Please like, follow, and subscribe to Get the Picture wherever you're watching or listening, and please rate and review the podcast so it shows up in more people's searches and feeds. It does make a difference, and I truly appreciate your support. If you missed the first episode, please go back and check it out. I started where I think photography should begin, learning the exposure triangle, understanding how your camera works to bring in light to your camera or phone to create an image. It's a timeless topic that'll have useful information whether you watch it today, next year, or 10 years from now. But today, for the second episode, I'm doing something maybe a little more timely. For those of you in the northern United States or in other parts of the world far enough north to see the northern lights, we were treated to quite a show last week when the northern lights were visible with the naked eye farther south than usual, and even in big cities like Minneapolis and St. Paul, despite the light pollution usually making that pretty much impossible. And not just the more common green colors that you see with the northern lights often, but we also got some bright reds too, even in the city. This brought a flood of photos onto everyone's timelines, and everyone tried their hand at photographing this spectacular event. So today, I'm going to talk with Chris Juhn. Chris not only got some fabulous photos of the northern lights last week, he's been chasing the northern lights for years, and by doing that has gained a lot of knowledge and experience about what causes the northern lights, how you can try to predict when they'll be visible, and how to capture great photos of them. So without further ado, let's get this rolling. Welcome to Get the Picture, Chris. Can you introduce yourself and maybe share how you first got into photographing the northern lights?
So my name's Chris Juhn. I'm a freelance photographer. I've been doing it for around 14 years, and I just kind of stumbled into it one day. I was going up to college in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, and I'd just walk around and take photos at night. I really liked it. And one day I get back, I look at the back of my camera, which was a 40D, by the way, much worse than what we have today. And I started to see I had them like captured. And so then I started to really focus on that. And it took years before I was able to really like know what I was doing.
I've heard that up in Grand Rapids in that area, you do see them more frequently. Is that true?
Yep.
And so that was your first attempt to get successful photos of the northern lights or aurora. I've heard that word too. Maybe we can talk a little bit about what all these words mean. So how did that feel when you first saw the back of your camera or when you got it on your computer and got photos of the northern lights?
It felt really good. I mean, I didn't really know exactly if it was northern lights, but I thought it was. And then as the year went on, I got it maybe like a couple more times. Nothing like what we had last weekend, though.
So for someone who's totally new to this, maybe never really heard about the northern lights or vaguely heard about it before this, can you just start by explaining what are the northern lights?
Yeah, so the northern lights are basically when there's a sunspot, like a hole in the sun. And I want to say, like, I'm not an expert with this, but I kind of know a little bit about how to see it. But it basically has charged particles that are launched from outer space through the sunspots, and then those particles travel through space and hit our atmosphere. And then when it hits the Earth's atmosphere, then it collects at the poles and kind of distributes. So there's both northern lights and southern lights, and we get the northern lights.
And that's the Aurora Borealis and Aurora Australis is the southern one, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Yeah, that's fascinating. It's very sci-fi sounding, like lasers from the sun coming and hitting our atmosphere, but that's really what's happening, huh?
And it's the magnetic field that causes them, like that it gets trapped into. And so it's electrons and protons and ions.
Okay. And so what determines their colors and their intensity? Because sometimes they're really faint, you can barely see them or can't with the naked eye, but your camera can. Sometimes they're super intense and you can see the bright
Yep.
colors.
So it's depends on what hits the Earth. If it collides with the nitrogen and oxygen, like oxygen creates green and nitrogen creates purple, blue, and pink, and like then they mix, I'd imagine too.
Okay. So last week when the northern lights were really strong, like easily visible with the naked eye here in Minneapolis and St. Paul, and even with very deep reds mixed with the greens, that seemed pretty unusual. Can you tell us why that happened and how rare that is?
I don't really know exactly what it is with colors that makes it different completely, but just what happened was there was two X-class solar flares, and that's like the highest class solar flare. And so sometimes when you get a couple in a row, whether it's usually M class that you see, it magnifies it and then like makes it more powerful. So the fact that we had two X class flares and an M class flare directly pointed at Earth caused it to be stronger than normal.
Okay. And there were two nights in a row that they were really quite visible. Where were you those nights for trying to get photos?
The first night I was kind of driving around because you got to look at where clouds are, where there's not going to be like a lot of clouds.
Because
And
even if
so
you
I,
get the solar flares and everything, if it's cloudy, you still can't see anything, right?
yep, yep. So I started near out Zimmerman, Minnesota, near Sherburne Wildlife Refuge. And then after that, I sort of headed east and ended at Crex Meadows. And that's like a wildlife refuge in Wisconsin. It's a great place to go.
So why are those places in particular good? Like, what are the qualities of a place you're looking for when you're trying to take pictures of the northern lights?
Well, you want it to be dark out. Like, you want to be away from city lights. And you also want to be north of any big lights, too. If you find a place that's clear, but it's south of the Twin Cities, it's almost worse because you have that right to your north where you normally see the northern lights. And so that's going to really drown it out. Um, that place doesn't really have anything north of it. I guess Duluth, but you don't really see it there. And then it's in the middle of a wildlife refuge, so you have a lot of good landscapes to go on. You also want to have it be like clear to your north on the horizon, so you don't want anything to really block it. Because you could be south, like looking north, but if you have something blocking you, it's gonna block the northern lights.
So where would you say some of the best places are for beginners to go see and photograph the northern lights? Like, do you need to go to northern Alaska or, somewhere way far north? Here in Minnesota, can you pretty much see them pretty regularly?
Minnesota, they happen way more often than people really realize. Most people have probably seen them, they just didn't realize they saw them. Like they kind of look like light pollution. It's not going to look like it does to your eyes like it does on the back of the camera, because the cones and rods in our eyes prevent us from really seeing the full color like our camera sees. And so, like, you could still see red, like last week, like really vivid reds, but like kind of faint, but like you knew it was red. Um, Most of the time, it's like a green glow.
Mm-hmm. So you've talked about most of the time, with rare exceptions like last week when you could see them in the city, most of the time you want to get away from places with lots of lights like a big city. You want to have something clear facing north, like maybe a big lake or a wildlife reserve or something like you were talking about. What about what time of year? Does it matter what time of year it is to see them?
So, so to see Northern Lights, what I'd recommend people that are new, wait for there to be a big flare. You want it to be Earth directed. Like there could be a really powerful flare, but if it shoots way east, it kind of wrecks the possibility for you seeing it because it's not going to hit our atmosphere. Um, so once you know it's headed towards Earth, it usually takes like 2 to 3 days for it to arrive. Now there are some shows that it kind of catches us off guard. You never know when there might be a display. But once you know it's coming, once you know that the it's powerful enough, get to some place away from city lights. Use like Google Maps, and find some place like a public boat launch on the south side of a lake. That's like a great place to go see it because it's going to be like a good place to go. It's going to have a clear view. You're going to be looking north, and it's genuinely pretty, like, generally pretty safe to go there. And then just like wait, and like you don't really know how much it's going to happen because they don't happen in like one time it happens and then it's done for the night. It comes in waves too. So like coronal mass ejection is what they call it when the particles are launched into outer space. When the CME hits us, then you see an uptake and a flare in the northern lights. But there might be 3 or 4 of them in any given night. So you don't really know like how many are going to impact us.
So we can't see like when there's a solar flare coming towards us. How do you know? Are there tools or apps that you follow, or Facebook groups, or anything for forecasting aurora activity?
I think Space Weather Live is a really good app. Like, um, show it in a second here. Like you can see the KP value, KP index, and then that's like the scale of which they rate like how strong it's going to be. But what you call BZ, that's like how if it's more north or south oriented. So you want the BZ to be negative, and then you also want the speed to be the solar wind to be high. And
And
there's other things like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
can you say the name of that app again, or is that a
It's
website?
Space Weather Live.
Okay.
Right at the top. But BZ is basically you want it to be south. You want the KP to be like 4 or higher, and then you want the solar speed to be high. I guess a higher number. Like I don't completely understand the solar speed or the density yet. I'm still kind of learning, but I know enough to know where to go.
And we've talked about clouds being something that impedes your view of the northern lights. What other weather or sky conditions matter most?
You want there to be no moon. So like if the moon's out, you could see the northern lights, but it will really drown it out. And like last week we had a pretty bright moon, but we could still see them pretty strong, which is rare. Yeah. Normally if there's no moon and it's like a KP4, it's not really worth going out, especially if it's like a full moon. But it could still have a full moon, but if the moon doesn't rise till after they come out, you can have a good view too. So I think that was what we had Thursday, I believe, the second night.
And just, it's probably obvious to people, but the reason that a moon, like a full moon or close to full moon, is bad is because of the light reflecting from the sun getting in the way of being able to see, just like the light from a city will make it harder to see. Okay.
But sometimes the moon can be good because it'll light the foreground up. And so you don't necessarily want a full moon, but like a half moon maybe or less. So there's benefits to having a moon out that you wouldn't get normally if it's like purely blackout.
So it seems like a lot of different things have to align in order to get the perfect storm, so to speak, like we did last week. So if you find out that there's a forecast that the northern lights may very well be visible in the coming days and you want to get pictures of it for someone who's just learning or hasn't done it before, what's the minimum gear you would say someone needs to take good northern lights photos?
You need, well, you can do stuff with your phone if you really have to, if you don't have a camera. But if you want to use a camera, really any DSLR will work. It's not one of those things where you need to have the latest gear. You just need a DSLR with full manual control and like maybe a shutter release and a tripod. But you can always set the timer on it to like 2 seconds before it goes off, and then you don't have to worry about it as much. But what I like to do is put a shutter release on it, just push the button up so it just takes pictures constantly. Or you can do it where you reframe it every time, and like it just depends if you're going for like a time lapse or you don't want to have to be constantly readjusting. Because then you can set your camera up and just really enjoy them too.
So you have a tripod, your camera, and uh, some sort of a shutter release. I have like a remote control thing that can trigger mine. If you don't have that, if you don't have a shutter release, I think you just said an alternative to that is built into pretty much any camera is instead of just hitting the shutter and it takes the picture right away, you set it so that it ticks off 2 seconds or 5 seconds or 10 seconds. You press the shutter and then it gives that time. And the reason for that is so that you don't get camera shake, because when you press the button, it shakes the camera and then you're going to get a blurry picture.
And if you have image stabilization on the lens, turn that off. And one of the biggest challenges is getting it in focus. So like if you can, if your camera is newer, you can usually do like single out of point focus. Focus on a star and then or like a cell phone tower in the background. Um, and then that will get it kind of in focus. And then if you don't have back button focus, which on the front of a camera you'll have like, let me get a camera. So on the front of the camera you have your shutter release. So how it's set up is halfway
Get mine out
focuses.
too so I can follow along. Uh-huh.
So half focus and then it takes the photo. But you can turn that off where you use like a back button to focus.
Yep,
And
I
so
do
the
that. I'm going to
reason,
do an episode about that. It's super
yeah.
important.
But if you don't do that, you're going to have to turn your camera into manual once you get in focus. Because every time you try to take a photo, it's going to refocus.
Right, so you want to you said focus on a star, a faraway cell phone tower, lock the focus there by having it in not autofocus, have manual focus on, and then you're good to go. Okay.
Another idea is you can like pre-focus it in like the day, make sure that everything's in focus like at the star level. And then you can use a piece of like gaff tape or some tape that's not going to leave residue, and you just tape over the focus.
The focus
'Cause
ring.
it's easy to bump it, you know? Like even if you think you got it right, even if you're using back button focus, sometimes that really helps. And if there's no moon out, like that can be really hard to focus. And the
So
older
what?
cameras just aren't that good at it. So
So just to say it explicitly, why is it hard to focus? Just because it's
um,
so dark, the camera can't see anything to focus on.
yeah, I mean my cameras are made for like sports photography and like journalism to focus quick and snappy and accurately. But
Mm-hmm.
most cameras don't have a focus system like it in it. So you want to get something like focus before you go out or just kind of test and see how it'll do.
And I would strongly recommend, even once you think it's in focus, after you take some shots, look at the back of your camera and then zoom in super as far as you can to make sure it's in focus because again, it's dark out. You might think it's in focus and then you get stuff on your computer and all your pictures are out of focus.
You can also use the magnify button too, where there's like a what do you call it? Like a little um the thing you use to look at like ants, you know, whatever you call
Magnifying
it.
glass, yeah.
Magnifying glass, yeah.
But don't burn the ants. That's mean.
No, I don't ever did that. But
Yeah.
um but you just zoom in into the stars and then you can manually focus it that way too. And that's almost more accurate to do it that way than just like using the buttons to focus. But I get lazy a lot.
And if you've never tried manual focus, that might seem intimidating, but you don't have to be intimidated. This isn't like Chris was talking about sports photography where if you miss the moment, you've missed it, right? You can take your time and it does come and go, so you may miss some moments, but another moment can come. And so really work with the manual focus. You can check your results, and that's really an important skill to have as well, just to be able to manually focus.
And then once you start getting like, once you know that, once you know how to photograph it, then maybe start looking for places that are really interesting. Because one of the hardest things to find is like a good spot that's unique. Because everybody always does the south side of a lake, which is great, but like it's what everybody has.
And so the
Everybody
south
has.
side of a lake, I'm sorry, the south side of the
Oh,
lake
go
is good because you get the reflection in the lake of the sky,
ahead.
right? So,
Yep.
yeah.
And then like find some place that's really interesting, like maybe like an abandoned building, like a farmhouse or something that like can really add to it. But it's harder to find these places than you really think. Like sometimes it takes hours just to find a spot too. And like you don't want to always go to the place everybody goes to because it's going to be crowded, it's going to be annoying, like there's going to be lights everywhere of cars pulling up, there's going to be like one time I had my camera at the end of a dock and a dog jumped off of it because some guy thought it'd be fun to bring his dog out.
Oh man, so that shook the dock and you got blurry photos.
Well,
That's
I wasn't
funny.
worried about that. It was getting knocked off the dock because I knew
Oh
it was
yeah,
dark out. I could see the dog running into it, but
yeah.
thank God it didn't collide with it. And that's the value of just looking up at a Google map. Look for a place that you think would be good, because that's going to be different every time, and you'll find new places, and that's how you sort of discover good places to see the aurora that aren't like flooded full of people.
So you
Yeah.
want to get a good image of the northern lights of the aurora, but a lot of what we saw on social media of people who just going out with their phones or with their cameras for the first time is just pictures of the sky with nothing in the foreground, and that's kind of what you're getting at now, right? Like that's just like the Wikipedia or dictionary picture of the aurora. What you want is something else of interest that makes the photo something more than just some colors, right?
You want like a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. And like the foreground really like makes the photo really stand out because you could have a great, beautiful photo of the aurora, but it's so much better if you can have like a landscape. But what you got to realize is when you're photographing, you're basically going for silhouettes. So when it's really dark out, it's going to be silhouetted. So like
So if you have an
if,
old barn in front of you, you're gonna get it's gonna be just black, basically.
and there's different things you can do, like light it with a flashlight to try to light paint a little bit. Um, but I mean, it you'll kind of pick it up your own style as you go, I think.
Yeah, I'd like to come back to that and talk about light painting with this in a minute. First, what lens do you usually use when you're photographing the northern lights? What focal length, and then what aperture do you usually set it to?
I think the best lens I've ever used for Northern Lights is like one of the cheapest. It's a 15 millimeter fisheye that Canon made. It was made in like 1987. Like that's when they started making it, and they retired it in like 2011. But you can pick them up used for like under 400 bucks. And if you shoot mirrorless, just get an adapter.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely incredible how much better that is than even like the 15 to 35. Like you kind of get the same look, but the fisheye really shows more of the scene, and so it's better than just like a regular 15 millimeter lens.
I love the fisheye look too, and it will probably look different than most other people's pictures. So I think that's a great suggestion. So you
Oh, yeah.
want something, if we're talking like 15 millimeters, that's a very wide lens. So you
Mhm.
want a wide angle lens so you can get a big portion of the sky. And then what aperture? Oh, go ahead.
That's
Is
the lens
that
with the
that's the
15
lens?
millimeter fisheye. Like, see the glass? I
Mm-hmm.
had one of these before and it broke. They're not made the best. Like, the image quality is way better than even my, for this than some of my other lenses that are way more expensive.
And I'm just going to highlight that tip that Chris just gave to use old lenses that were made in the film camera days. They're manual focus, everything's manual on them,
Hmm.
but you can get like a lens like that, that the equivalent for a modern camera with autofocus and that communicates with the camera is going to be exponentially more expensive. And you can get incredible lenses like that from the old film days, super cheap, that take amazing photos. I got my first 70 to 200 millimeter lens for a Canon that was, I used to shoot Canon back in the film days. Now I use Sony, but there's an adapter. You can find an adapter for almost any lens to any kind of camera. And so I had, for $100, I had a 70 to 200 millimeter lens, whereas buying one made for Sony, Sony or for Sony, you're going to be in the thousands of dollars. So
Yeah.
good
And
tip.
that lens does have autofocus on it, and you can surprisingly like focus on a star with it.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so that's the one I like to use also for like storm chasing. So like if you have a big like supercell in front of you, it's really hard with a normal lens to get it all in, but that really helps and it makes it almost more dramatic too. And I learned about that lens when I was doing sports photography. Every single pro sports shooter used that, even over like the $1,500 the Canon 8 to 15 fisheye, because the colors are better, the distortion's less. It's just a better looking lens. One time I went out photographing northern lights with one of my friends, and he had that fisheye, and the colors were way better. It let in more light. It's just a better lens overall, I think.
Okay. So let's get into camera settings and technique for doing photos of the Northern Lights. What basic camera settings should a beginner start with? And there's going to be some variation, I'm sure, depending on all kinds of factors. But what would you say is a good starting point?
I always shoot wide open, just because you let more light in, and
And
then it
so you're
depends
talking
how.
about. Sorry, I'm just
Oh,
to
go ahead.
fill in the blanks for beginners who may not know all the language. So shooting wide open, you're referring to the aperture, how wide the opening on your lens is that lets in light to the camera. So shooting wide open means the smallest number possible that your lens can do. So that might be 2.8, it might be 1.4. So shoot wide open with your lens, get as much light in as possible. Okay. What about shutter speed?
Shutter speed, you want to have like maybe at minimum, like maybe half a second, all the way up to like 30 seconds. The shorter shutter speed shows the form of the northern lights better, but longer will get brighter and you can use a lower ISO, so less grain. Um, And then ISO kind of ranges. I'm normally at like 3200 or higher. You don't really need to worry about higher ISOs nowadays with modern cameras. Even anything made in the last 10 years is going to handle it really well. I mean, and then you just kind of play around and feel it out because every show is different, every intensity is different. There's been some nights where it's so bright where like I don't even really need to be shooting like more than a half a second. I can be at like 500 ISO at like half a second.
Okay. So that's one thing I was wondering about is shutter speed. Like, do you tend to do a shorter shutter speed to, like you said, capture the actual forms of the lights in a moment of time, or a longer shutter speed to get more brightness? And it, I tend to like the shorter shutter speeds, but a lot of people I think do tend towards longer just to let more light in. But
2 to 10 seconds tends to be good. Like 2 seconds was what I was shooting with last time when my friends were doing. I can show a photo. Is there a way to upload?
yep, I can add that in afterwards. I'd love to show some of your photos as part of this. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'll show a couple of them later. That with my friends, they ended up going up to this spot in northern Minnesota, kind of by Tofty, and to get to it, you have to drive up like this really, really, really bad road. Like if I didn't drive a Subaru, my car would have gotten stuck. Like it's pretty much off-roading at that point. And once we got up to the top, they decided to hike up to the top of the mountain, like this small mountain in northern Minnesota. We don't really have mountains here, but um,
True.
one of the closest things to like an actual mountain. But when we were up there, it was like 40 to 60 mile per hour winds, just constant. And so they're getting blown around on top of this, and the northern lights are actually more visible the higher up you go. And so like it was really intense up there. So, but yeah, I guess what I was getting at is that's where my friend went, and that's where I took it, and that's why it might seem more bright than some of the other images. And then I have some when we were on 61 going up.
Amazing. So let's say somebody wants to get photos of the northern lights, but they don't have a DSLR or mirrorless camera. They just have their phone, the camera on their phone. Would you say today's smartphones are capable of photographing the northern lights? And if so, what suggestions would you have to get good results using a phone?
They're better now than they've ever been. Of course, technology always advances, but it's you can get great shots with the phone. It's just you can't really blow them up and do big prints with them. But like for posting online, they're great. If you can get like little tripod mounts where you can attach your phone. That could help keep it stable and less shake. I'd say that could be good. And then with the camera, you do like a 2 second timer, whatever settings you have on it.
So most phones have that, right? You just have to go into the settings with your camera app
Mhm.
and you can do a timer.
Yeah, I mean this is one I got with my phone last week.
Was that just with the built-in camera app, or do you use a separate camera app that gives you more manual controls?
I just use the built-in one because my real photos are with my camera and not the phone.
So you
But
use the phone just for some snapshots and
yeah,
get the best you can. Okay.
and a lot of
Any
times I'll use the phone to sort of see where they're at too. Because if you're driving, you can just kind of hold your phone up, as long as it's like you're not going to run into anybody and there's not traffic.
right.
A lot of times I'll
Or
just pull over and I'll just put the phone up and see. So
that's a really good tip. I also was doing that last week in my backyard, not expecting to be able to see them in the city, but seeing other people posting on social media about how visible they were. So I didn't even need to put my phone up because I could see them when I went outside. But if you put your phone up with the camera app and aim it around the sky, you will see more than what your naked eye can see, as Chris talked about towards the beginning of the interview. So that's a great way to, I agree, find where they are to know where to point your camera to get the best shots.
yep, and it's fun because you get to see other areas of the state you don't normally see. Because normally you're not going to these remote areas. You're kind of just going to locations. But with this, you can focus on like what looks best, like naturally, like these the farm in the middle of nowhere.
Have you ever had an experience? I sometimes think about this when I'm looking for like an old farmhouse or something, grain silo, whatever, to do photos. I'm sometimes you're in the middle of the night and just pull up in front of someone's barn or whatever. I'm afraid someone's going to come out maybe and with a shotgun and get off my property. Have you ever had any experiences like that?
None like that, but I don't like to go on private property for that reason. Especially if you're at night in the middle of the countryside and you're going to someone's farm, they might be like, "Oh, Antifa's here to come and get us." So it's I don't want to like everybody's so paranoid nowadays where I don't want to like give them a reason to think I'm somebody doing something to try to steal their pig or whatnot, you know. One
Not
time I
trying
did
to.
sit, one time I was out in like I forgot the name of the city, but it's the UFO capital of Wisconsin. Like in that area just trying to get some night shots. And this farmer came up and asked what I was up to, and he had like one of his fingers missing, probably like a combine accident or something.
Wow. So why is it the UFO capital? Now you piqued my interest. Just the most sightings there?
Yeah, so I forgot when, but there was like sightings all the time. Like cops were reporting seeing them, like people all over the city were seeing them. Everybody was seeing these UFOs for a while. Then one day it just stopped. So I think it sort of stopped over there, but um, it's it's kind of an interesting place. Every year they do like a UFO festival.
Do you remember
Um,
what it's called? Where it is?
Let me see.
Got to put this in the show notes. So while you're looking for that, what just to talk about some practical challenges with photographing the northern lights, what are some mistakes that you think that you've seen beginners make when photographing the northern lights?
I think it's just if it's maybe too shaky, want to make sure your camera's still because a lot of them there's some like shake in the camera and you can see it. Um, Other than that, like just go out and shoot. And don't be scared to make mistakes because it's fun. You get to see other areas of the state. It's nice and relaxing being under the stars. I mean, nowadays we don't really get away from our like daily routine. It's nice to sort of break that and just have a moment of like escape and peacefulness. It's almost like meditating.
Hmm. I think that's a really important point. And in the interview on the first episode, when I talked with Phil Ward, we were talking about. I asked him, with AI these days, we can just type in a prompt in an AI application, and it can produce a photo, which sometimes it botches it, but sometimes can actually be a really beautiful photo. What's the point of even doing photography? And he talked about that as well. The actual experience of it. Like, don't get so caught up in all the settings and all of that that you forget to just take time and experience what you're experiencing, because that's really a big part of what photography is a gift to you to do.
And whenever there's these shows, there's some I can know what it is just from seeing an image. Because like across the country, there's that same like formation in front and like above. So I can usually tell if someone said they were out shooting it and they just put AI into it. Because you can see the formations are different. Because if you're out all night, you kind of see everything that happens. And it's pretty easy to just go on a group and see what people were getting.
Mm-hmm. Like a Facebook group or social media groups.
There's a few of them that are pretty good. And those are also great to go to. And then there's a guy who's way more knowledgeable than I am with it. Ledvina, I think, is his name. He's the guy that everybody follows now. Vincent Ledvina. He lives in Alaska, but he like always keeps everybody up to date. He's always posting as the night goes. He tells you when the CME are about to make impact.
Okay,
It's
great.
probably the best place to go learn from, honestly.
So is he on social media? Where can you follow him?
Facebook,
Okay.
and he goes by Vincent Ledvina, Ledvina, and the Aurora guy.
Okay. Excellent tip. So last week it's starting to get cold, and the further north you go, the colder it is. How do you deal with cold temperatures if you're out part of the night or even all night? What are some must-have accessories to keep your batteries alive and to keep your fingers and other extremities alive?
I don't really do anything for the batteries. Like some people post like little hand heaters in it. Um, I'd say just dress warm. Wear snow pants. That's huge because it stops the wind and like you wear a couple layers underneath that. A few layers on top too. A face mask, a hat, like something around your neck, kind of. Gloves, of course. And then if you have to warm up in the car, it's good to have it nearby. So, and then a chair to sit down and enjoy it because it's not always fun standing for hours.
Those are all great tips I've learned the hard way by not bringing a chair, by, making some of those other mistakes. Snow pants too, excellent tip. You can get them pretty cheaply, and they don't have to be the most expensive or fancy ones. You're out there in the dark, no one's going to see them. You just need snow pants that'll keep you warm.
Hmm. Oh, the name of the city is Elmwood, Wisconsin.
That's the UFO capital.
Yeah.
Elmwood, Wisconsin. All right.
I actually asked the farmer when he came up, I'm like, is this real? Are people seeing it? And he's like, oh yeah, everybody was seeing them like years ago, and then they just stopped one day.
All
So
right. Well, we'll have to do a photo meetup in Elmwood, Wisconsin someday.
it's fun. It's an interesting town, I think. I've never gone there during the day, but I do want to check out the festival.
For sure. So let's talk about post processing. You get some images of the Northern Lights, you get them home onto your laptop or computer or your tablet to put them into Lightroom or whatever editing software you use. How much editing do you think is good for the Northern Lights, for photos of the Northern Lights? And can you tell if somebody has over saturated or over edited their photos?
Yep, I mean, this is kind of more like an artistic view. There's no way to say it's bad or good. Personally, I feel like if you do too much saturation, it kind of wrecks it because I want it to kind of look like how it was. Um, but like contrast is good. Bringing down the highlights sometimes makes it less intense. Like sometimes it's just really blown out highlights. They can get really bright too. Like so, I'll bring up or down the exposure. I adjust shadows, contrast, sometimes saturation a little bit, just to give it a little extra bump. But most of the time, they're relatively not edited all that much.
And just to say it explicitly too, you should be shooting your images in RAW. At least that's what I do. I assume that's what you do
Yeah.
as well, because then you have much more flexibility when you're editing afterwards.
With Northern Lights, it's even that much more important to use RAW because, like, you need that extra adjustment, especially at night. Anytime you're doing some sort of astrophotography, you kind of want it RAW. So I'd recommend always just shooting in RAW. They're larger files, but they're better, and you can do more editing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Do you have a simple editing workflow that maybe beginners could follow? Just curious, what application are you using for editing these days?
I use Lightroom for everything, so once you load it all up, you can adjust the shoot in like auto white balance or fluorescent. Fluorescent brings out more of the blues, but auto white balance kind of it's if you're doing time lapse, you always want to have like a set like color temperature where it doesn't change. But if you're doing it like manually, you're adjusting a little bit, then you can do a different white balance setting.
Can you say a little bit more about how would someone do a time lapse and what is that exactly?
So a time lapse is a bunch of photos combined to create like a video. So if you're doing it, it takes a lot of images. So 30 photos in a second of like video. So if you want to do like a minute video, you're talking about 40. Wait, maybe more than that. I think like 2,400 images, maybe.
And so
For like a
you can set your camera to do time lapse on a tripod, for example, and then it'll just take a photo every
Mhm.
5 seconds or whatever.
Yep. And then well, I just put the shutter release on and just push it up and hold it. So like by the time it's done, it just takes another one. If you're doing like a 2 second exposure, that should get you a good rate for it. So then that's when I bring out two cameras, where I'll have that doing the time lapse, and then the second one I'll just sort of like frame it differently and just move around.
Okay.
Yep. So then you don't miss anything with the one camera.
That's a great tip too. Bring two cameras. So do you have a favorite Aurora moment or image that sticks with you that you'd want to share?
I don't know if there's necessarily a favorite, but just like being up with some friends and we hiked up to this fire tower. And so like I thought it wouldn't be a big walk. We got on one side of it, realized it was like a half mile to the spot. So we drove to the staircase, and it was like the steepest stairs I've ever climbed in my life. It
And in
was
the dark, I assume, right?
Yeah, and I was exhausted. I'm not in the best of shape, and like just trying to carry a heavy amount of like a heavy camera bag on the backpack and carrying everything up, it just exhausted me. Wore my legs out, wore my body out. But once we were up there, they just really exploded, and you have this good video, this time lapse I took of um, just northern lights exploding around this fire tower.
Amazing. So
And
just
that was
to
down in southern Minnesota too, so it wasn't even.
Oh, okay. So to close it out, for somebody hoping to photograph the Northern Lights for the first time, what would be your best piece of advice?
I'd say just find a place that's good. Location is the main thing. Once you have that down, just sort of like a south end boat launch of a lake is great. Just sort of see how things are and kind of adjust each photo and kind of learn from it. You're not really gonna probably nail it the first time, but um, the more you go out, the better you'll get at it. And always make sure the tripod's secure. I made the mistake of it like a month ago where I had my camera on the tripod trying to photograph a comet, and it went back and broke the camera and lens.
Oh no.
Yep.
So like by it being secure, like it just collapsed, or what? Was it on
So
unstable ground, or?
I had it set up. It seemed to hold, and then I went to go to get something from my car, and then it fell back and like broke the camera and lens.
Oh
And
no.
another lesson is if you have a lot of money and gear, always have camera insurance. Like you might not think you need it, but if your camera breaks or gets stolen or anything happens, or like you dropped it to break it, like then you'll have the insurance to help cover it. Because I didn't never expected to use it. I've had it since like 2016, and then it's the moments you don't like think you'll need it that your camera breaks. Because I went covered all the riots, fine, nothing really was damaged long term. Um, but then photographing the trying to get a comet, that's when it broke. So it's
All
the
right.
moment you
Well,
have your guard let down that it always happens.
another excellent piece of advice. So, where can people find your photography online if they want to see some of your work?
Facebook, and then I upload some to like a wire service that like Getty and everybody like license from. So either online or maybe like on Facebook. So
All right. Thanks so much, Chris. I appreciate you being on this episode of Get the Picture, and hopefully people can learn something and be able to go out and get some amazing photos and have some amazing experiences photographing the Northern Lights.
yeah, well, good luck if you're going out and shooting it. It's a great experience, and it's a great experience in general for just being in nature. Even if you don't get it, even if you don't find the Northern Lights, just being under the stars is great, especially in nature because we don't really see that dark sky that often, especially if you're in a big city.
Yep, I agree. And I've had that experience with the Northern Lights where I went out to try and get them and I didn't get great pictures, but had that great experience. I've also had that when I tried to photograph the Milky Way and I don't always see it, but like you said, you're out in front of a lake contemplating the vastness of the universe. What could be better?
Yep, and then Crex Meadows is a great spot to go to, like an hour and a half north of the Twin Cities.
Crex Meadows? Okay.
Yep, it's in Grantsburg, Wisconsin. So it's like right on the other side of the Wisconsin border, so it's not too far into it.
Excellent. And this isn't just a Minnesota and Wisconsin thing. There's places all over the world that you can do this for both the northern and southern lights. So we're talking about Minnesota because that's where we both happen to be. But you do some searching, find some great spots near you, and you can see the northern lights too. All right. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Brad.